I'm Jen Verrill. Today we're here at Verrill Farm in Concord, Mass. One of our signature items in our bakery here at the farm is a fresh fruit pie that we make in our bakery with all butter from scratch. So today I'm going to show you how to make one of those pies. First thing we're going to do is make the crust. This crust is very versatile. You can use it for the double crust, for the lattice top, and for the base crust of the pie. So first we're going to put 8 ounces of chilled cubed up butter into the Cuisinart. Then add 2 1/4 cups of flour, a half a teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 cup of sugar. And then we're going to put the cover on and just pulse it. You don't want to pulse it too much. You should have small chunks of butter when you're finished. And when you get the little pieces of butter, it's time to add the water. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of ice cold water. Just add it right through the feed tube. And again, just pulse it again until it just starts to come together. Don't want to over mix it at this point. That looks good. And then just put a tiny bit of flour down on your work surface. Just dump everything out on the table. Scrape the bowl. And then this looks like it's never going to come into a log, but it will. Just kind of press it together. You don't want to knead it, but just kind of firmly press it, and so it forms a log. Just like that. And then we're going to wrap this and chill it. Okay, so now we're going to chill the dough that we just made. Just wrap it in plastic, and I recommend chilling it at least 2 hours. Or at this point, you can double wrap it and freeze it for later use, which is really nice to have around the holidays too. So now I'm going to get the dough that we made earlier. So we're going to put a little flour on the surface. And making pie dough is just like anything else. Once you get a little confidence, it's really simple to do. This dough has butter. It's all butter. So I think it's really easy to work with. A little bit easier than if you're using shortening. So you're just going to make a disc. Press it down into a disc. And keep turning it and making sure it's not sticking. So once you have a disc about that large, get your rolling pin and just start rolling it out from the center out. Don't worry if you get a little crack. But I'm going to keep moving it so it's not sticking. If it gets a little sticky on top, you can add a tiny bit of flour. A little bit more on top. And try to keep a circle because that makes it a lot easier when you're putting it in the pan. That's another reason why you want to keep churning it. It's easier to keep the circle. Check that you don't have any dough sticking on your rolling pin. And then if you want to check to see if it's big enough, you can just hold your pan over it like this. It's just about right. And then you can also feel if it feels really thick in some parts, just roll it a little bit more. Okay, so that's about right. So at this point, fold it in half, and then you can slide your pan right over, and then just unfold it into the pan. And at this point, you can decide if you're making a double crust pie or a lattice pie, you want to leave the overhang just like it is. Okay, so to make the lattice topping for that pie crust we just rolled out, you're going to do the same thing we just did for the bottom. Press the dough out into a disc, keep it into a circle. And I like to put 10 strips on top of my pies, put 5 one way and 5 the other. You can do that. You can do 4 each way if you want wider strips. It's up to you. Oops. See that happen? But you just press it down a little bit and it's fine. The more you can keep a circle going, the easier it is. Okay. So we can get 10 strips out of this. This is a pastry wheel, which also is similar to what they use for ravioli. And if you don't have this, you can just use a knife, and that'll just give you a straight edge. And a lot of times I get 9 pieces. So I'm just going to take this little piece that we had left over and roll out one small one. Don't worry if the pieces are not exactly that long, because the way when we weave the crust over, it won't matter if one piece is a little bit smaller. Okay, so there's the lattice. So we're going to take 3 cups of blueberries, 2 cups of cut up strawberries, and a half a pint or 1 cup of fresh raspberries. And then we're going to put in a half a cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and a little bit of lemon zest. And I like to use these microplaners. You just have to be careful. You do it really gently because they really do a nice job. So you don't want too much. Just a little bit of lemon. And then just kind of gently toss that around. And then you're going to just put in the crust. Everything's pretty evenly coated with your sugar and cornstarch, so that's good. A couple runaways. Kind of flatten it down a little with the spatula. Okay, and then you're going to weave the crust on. So take this little piece, put it right there. Use the smaller pieces for the ends. Just going to go across and put 5 this way. And then turn it. I'm going to put 5 the other way. So at this point, you can just go over, under, over, under. So we're going to go over this first one, and under the second, over, and under. Try to keep the pieces of crust straight, so it doesn't look all zigzaggy when you're done. So we're going to go over, just keep weaving it. And if you really want to skip weaving it, you can just lay 5 across and then lay the other 5 across right on top. There we go. Okay, now if you have really long pieces hanging down, just take a little bit off. You don't want the crust too thick on the edge. So take it, it's nice and straight. Going to fold it under. Get the 2 pieces together, the lattice and the bottom crust. Pinch them together and roll them under. So they're sitting right on top of your pie plate. So I have this on there. When you crimp it, try to press it in a little bit too. If you have a really juicy fruit and you leave it like that, the fruit sometimes comes out and breaks the crust. So I'm going to try to really press it in. Okay. And that's it. And then we just need the egg wash on top. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put the egg wash on top, which is 1 whole egg and about a tablespoon of water. And I like to use these silicone brushes because I think they're a lot easier to keep clean. So we're just going to brush a little bit on. And then if you want to sprinkle some sugar on top, you can go ahead and do that. A little sugar. And we're going to put it on a pan. I like to line the pans with parchment paper, or you can put it directly on your oven shelf and then put a parchment lined paper on the bottom, just because they do overflow in the oven and it makes a really big mess. So in the bakery here we cook at 325 in a convection oven. So if you have a convection, use 325. If you don't, I would use about 375 and bake pretty much all 9 to 10 inch pies about an hour. Okay, so this is the Jumble Berry Pie. It's been in the oven for about an hour, and you can tell when the pie is cooked by actually these nice juices that are coming out on the edge, and they get really syrupy. And if you tilt the pie a little bit right before it comes out and the juices are really thin and watery, you need to bake it a tiny bit more. But you can see this was nice and thick and syrupy, and when it comes out, just let it cool. I let it cool at least a couple hours, and then you're ready to enjoy this delicious summer pie.